Hello, receiving students, 6Es and receiving teachers. Thank you, take your seat. Now, receiving students and 6Es, on the screen you have a recapping activity. I would like you to change the measurements into the units indicated. So, there's a table given there. The table has been divided into two columns. One side of the table has measurements given. The other side, the measurements are not given. So I would like you to change those measurements given to the measurements that are not given. So receiving students and 6Es, you have 5 minutes to complete that short recapping exercise, which is given on the table. Receiving teacher, while the students are doing the recapping activity, I would like you to go around and supervise their activity. Okay, the first one, 10 millimeter. How many centimeter is it? The second one is 25 millimeter. How many centimeter is that? The next one is 100 centimeter. You have to change it to meter. 100 centimeter is equals to how many meters? 350 centimeter is equals to how many meters? 1,000 meters is equals to how many kilometers? And 1,500 meters is equals to how many kilometers? Receiving students and 6Es, you have last 2 minutes remaining. Last 2 minutes, 3 minutes gone. You have last 2 minutes remaining to complete the exercise. Receiving students and 6Es, when you are finished, you put your hands on your head so that the teacher will see that you are finished with your work. To the receiving teacher, this exercise for the moral class will be assessed. So receiving teacher, if you would like to assess this summary recapping activity, it's all up to you. But otherwise, receiving students, when you complete your exercise, do not forget to give your exercise to your teacher. Students, you have last 1 minute remaining before we go to the main lesson for today. Hurry up. All right, receiving students and sixes. 5 minutes is up, so we will go to our main lesson for today. Now, receiving students and sixes, we will look at our lesson topic for today. Our lesson topic for today is on changing units of length 2, or number 2, lesson number 2. Our last lesson, we looked at changing units of length, lesson number 1. Now we will look at lesson number 2 of the same topic. Now, in our last lesson, we looked at changing units of length number 1, which is changing bigger units to smaller units. In today's lesson, we will do the opposite of what we have learned in our last lesson. So, receiving students and sixes, on the screen I have a learning activity. Receiving students and sixes, I would like you to read the question which is on the screen. Loud and clear. Can you read after 2? 1, 2.
The length of an exercise book is 225 millimeters. What is the length in centimeters?
All right. That is the question that we will answer as our learning activity to understand changing of smaller units to bigger units. In this learning activity, we already know the length of an exercise book in millimeter. We have to find that length in centimeter. What is that length in centimeter? 225 is the length of an exercise book in millimeters. This problem is telling us to find what is this length in centimeter. Now, let's go back to our conversion chart. Now, receiving students and 6 is, what are the 2 units that we are dealing with, units of length? What are we dealing with? What 2 units of length are we looking at? What 2 units are we looking at? Let's have Brenda. Brenda, what are the 2 units that we are trying to change? Receiving students, what are the 2 units that we are trying to change?
Millimeters, centimeter.
Come again?
Millimeter and centimeter.
Millimeter and centimeters. So, in this learning activity, we are trying to change millimeter to centimeters. Okay, we are trying to change these 2 units. From millimeter to centimeter, receiving students and sixes. Now, going back to our conversion table, how many millimeter is 1 centimeter equal to? 10. 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeter. Now, receiving students and sixes, this chart is a very important chart. Using this chart, you can change from one unit to another with length. You can change any units of length from one unit to another, whether it is from bigger unit to smaller unit or smaller unit to bigger unit. If you know this conversion of length, basic conversion of length. So, this chart can be also your teacher as well. So, because we are dealing with centimeters and millimeters, since we know that 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeter, then how many centimeter is 225 millimeter is equal to? How many centimeter is 225 millimeter is equal to? So we are trying to find how many centimeter is that. 225 millimeter is equals to how many centimeter? That is what we are trying to find. So, receiving students and 6 is, to work out the answer, 225 millimeter is equal to 225 divide by, what are we going to divide 225 by? receiving students and sixes? Lorraine?
10.
Very good, 10. We are going to divide by 10, 10 millimeter. The reason why we are dividing by 10 millimeter because 1 centimeter is equals to 10 millimeter. So, you see how important this conversion chart is? We are going back to this conversion chart to help us to find how many centimeter is 225 millimeter is. So we are again using the conversion chart. Receiving students and sixes. What is 225 divided by 10 millimeter? What do you get? Can you work out that? Now it takes you back to your lesson in dividing by multiples of 10. So what is 225 divided by 10? Receiving students and sixes. Can you divide 225 divided by 10 quickly? I'll give you 1 minute. Okay, answer from this table. What is your answer? Receiving teacher, you can get a number of answers from your class and then compare the final answer. This table ready, next table, you get ready for the next. What is your answer?
22.5 centimeter.
22.5 centimeters. Vanessa's group, what's your answer?
$22.5 centimeters.
22.5 centimeter. Receiving students and sixes. I hope you have got the same, given your answer to your teacher. Okay, let us work out the answer together and see that if we get these two answers. So receiving students and sixes, if you divide 225 by 10, we are dividing by 10, so when you divide, we move to the right or left when we are dividing by multiples of 10? Left. So, the decimal point is here. So, we move in how many places? 1 in. So, 22.5. Therefore, receiving students and 6 is. What is 225 milliliter in centimeter? 22.5 centimeters. Now receiving students and sixes. In our previous lesson, we looked at changing from bigger units to smaller units. And what operation did we use? Alison, receiving students, what operation did we use in our previous lesson on changing units of lengths? We used one main operation. Can you tell your teacher what operation that you used or that we used in that lesson? Yes.
Multiplication.
Okay, we used multiplication. Receiving students, if you have given your answer as multiplication, you are correct. Now, in this lesson, we are doing the opposite. This time, instead of multiplication, we are using the operation division because we are changing from smaller unit to bigger unit. So receiving students and 6s, the method is to change smaller unit to bigger unit, we divide. So that is the method that you can apply when you are changing smaller units of lengths to bigger units of lengths. You divide. Now receiving students and 6s. Let us look at our exercise for our today's lesson. Okay, in our exercise, receiving students and 6s, you have two main exercises. Exercise number 1 is A to C. You have to change the measurements into the units indicated. So A, B, C. Receiving students and 6s. I'm giving you 3 minutes to complete the first exercise. Then we go on to the next exercise number 2. To the receiving teacher, please, while students are doing their exercise, you can go around and supervise them. Receiving students and 6s, whatever example in working out is given on the board or given by the teacher, you must try to follow the example of working out. So I have shown you the example of working out on how to change bigger units to smaller units to bigger units. So you follow that example of working out to complete the exercise which have been given in the lesson. So receiving students, use the example of working out given during the lesson by the teacher. Exercise 1, 2 minutes. Receiving students and 6s. It would be very interesting if you can show your working out, how you got your answer. Now you have last 1 minute remaining before we go to exercise number 2. Now receiving students and 6s, we will now move on to the next exercise. Exercise number 2 is on the screen. Change the measurements into the units indicated. So exercise number 2, you have A and B. A and B only. So complete those two exercises, A and B. receiving students and 6s. For exercise 2, I would like you to show your working out, how you got those answers. Show your working out. I've already shown you an example, working example of how to work out your answer. So steps in how to work out your answer has been given to you during the lesson. So you can use that example and solve the question, exercise question number 2, using that steps and method. All right, receiving students and 6s. If you have completed your exercise, after the lesson, you can give it to your teacher to mark your exercise. But before we wind down the lesson, we will correct exercise number 1, A and B. So receiving teacher, please select 2 volunteers to go up to the board and write the answers for exercise 1, A and B. If you haven't completed exercise 2, receiving students and 6s, you can complete that exercise as your homework. And then don't forget to give the exercise to your teacher to check the work. Now, from the model class, we have Uvau and Alison. Uvau and Alison, please. Uvau to complete exercise A and Alison exercise B. Christine, help your friend Alison to complete exercise B. On the board. Make sure you show your working out. A. Quickly. Uvau, finish? Okay, you can take your seat. Christine, you are doing 1B, 1B. 400 centimeters is equals to how many millimeters? Okay, thank you, Uvau. Take your seat. Okay, class, let's look at our friends' exercise here. A. Question A is 50 millimeter. 50 mm is equals to how many? Is equals to how many centimeter? Receiving students and 6s. If you have shown your working out on the board, okay, we have two of your friends who have shown their answers and the working out on the board. Let's look at our friend Uvau's work on the board. Is he correct with the answer? Has he come up with an answer? Yes or no? Where? What is the answer? I don't see any answer here. 5. Where is 5? Okay. Receiving students and 6s. When you are giving your answer, you must state clearly what your answer, final answer is. And you must show your clear working out. This example here, this working out shown here isn't very clear to even me as the teacher and you as the students. You cannot understand our friends' work here. So when you are explaining your answer, you must write it clearly from step 1 to the last step, which is your final answer. State it clearly or write it clearly. Okay, 50 millimeter is equal to 50 centimeter. What is the first step? We divide. So 50 millimeters is equals to 50 times what? 50 times what? Oh, sorry, 50 divided by 10. 50 divided by 10 millimeters. So 50 divided by 10 millimeters is equals to how many? 5. So 50 millimeters equals to centimeter. How many centimeters? 50 millimeters is equals to how many centimeters? Our answer should be 5 centimeters. Receiving students and 6s, please, like I've said, when you are writing your answer or trying to show your answer, show it clearly. Okay, the next answer, 400 centimeters is equals to how many? Is it centimeters or meters? Supposed to be meters, okay? So, what is the correct answer? 400 is equals to 400 divided by 100 centimeter, which is equals to 4. So, the answer is 4 meters. Receiving students and 6s, those are the answers for exercise A and exercise B. Exercise 1, A and B. Now students, if you haven't got those two answers correct, please make your corrections. And the rest of the exercise, you can give it to your teacher. Now receiving students and 6s. When we are changing units of length, that is from small to big, what is the operation that we must use? Receiving students and 6s. Divide. Small to big, you divide. In other words, smaller units of length to bigger units of length, we use division operation. So, kilometers to meters, we divide by 1,000. Meters to centimeters, we divide by 100. And centimeter to millimeter, we divide by 10. With that, receiving students and 6s, our key phrase for today's lesson is small to big, divide. In other words, when you are changing smaller units of length to bigger units of length, you must divide. And our next lesson topic is on rounding units of length. With that, receiving students and 6s, thank you very much for your participation in this lesson.